you ever speak to me like that again, better be wearing a cup.
Baby steps.
One break, I'm in
Okay, friends, let's everybody take your positions, please. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, rolling. Dave!
And
Dave!
Unchained.
welcome to Dave and Dave Unchained, a Van Halen podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Dave.
And we are at episode 67, Dave, if you can believe it. We are in July, in the heart of the summer, and I have to admit something to you.
Uh-oh, here we go again.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't cheat on you this time, but I want to announce that I'm in love. That's right, Dave. I'm completely in love with the Mammoth WVH album. I have been listening to it non-stop since our last episode. I think I'm up to 30 plays already. And
Wow.
It is, I really, really think it's incredible. I really do. I have to be honest, and I'm not saying anything's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect album. But I really, really like this album. And it's not because he's Eddie's kid, and it's not because his last name is Van Halen. I really can't believe how much I like this album. I mean, I'm listening to it all the time. I don't get sick of it. I have soaked it in. I have soaked it into my pores. So I'm very excited about it, and I really think it's good. Have you listened to it any more since we last did the episode?
Yes, I have. Not nearly as many times as you, but I have listened to it, and I've even got my hands on the bonus track.
Yes.
So I've been listening to that too, and that's pretty good as well. And it is the kind of album that does bear repeated listening.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good quality album. It's not crap. I'm actually surprised how much I like it because I got stuck in 1984 somewhere, so I really don't listen to a lot of new music. But Wolf's album has enough good stuff that I go back and listen to it.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I urge everybody to get it. If you don't have it already, it's a must. It doesn't sound anything like Van Halen, but that's not the point. It is really, really high quality. So just wanted to let that out there, and we are going to head right into Van Halen news.
Van Halen.
Well, the Van Halen news coming out the gate and flowing is Mr. Sammy Hagar, the Red Rocker himself. Oh my God. Since the last episode, this guy has been on fire. So just to start off, that Sammy Hagar announced a Vegas residency, Dave. Doesn't that sound familiar, Dave? A Vegas residency.
I wonder where he got that idea from.
No, it's almost like he just sort of like tapped into it somehow. Well, I tell you what, though. Dave's residency didn't turn out to be much of a residency, did it? It was just a week.
I think we saw 2/3 of Dave's residency.
That's right, and we actually saw the better 2/3 because the first night was sort of a rough patch, I guess, or, it's just getting the rust off, and we saw the prime, Dave, which was fantastic. We also got some song changes, which was great, but let's get to Sammy. Sammy at the Strat, Dave. Sammy at the Strat, and interesting enough, he's billing it as Sammy and Friends. So this is not Sammy Hagar in the Circle, it's Sammy and Friends, and then he talks about how, Vic will be on these dates, and Jason will be on these dates, but Mikey apparently is always going to be with him, which is a good thing. So just to start off, so Sammy is doing a Las Vegas residency at the Strat Hotel, Casino, and Skypod, and it's going to have a rotating circle of his legendary friends. He's starting off with October 29th and 30th, then he's doing another weekend, November 5th and 6th, and then he added another weekend after High Demand, November 12th and 13th, and they are sold out. But the capacity of the room is not big. It's a kind of an intimate venue. It's 800 seats, 300 which are GA on the floor. And Sammy says here, I've been searching the Las Vegas Strip trying to find the right room, ambiance, and partners to create a very special Cabo Wabo birthday bash type environment for my band members and my musician friends. Now, if you remember, Dave, we talked about this pre-COVID. I don't know if you remember, but back in Van Halen news section, I'm going to say like early 2020, like right before COVID hit, we did an item about this. He was just about to launch a residency and then COVID hit. So that whole thing went to pieces. But this is definitely happening. And he has bassist Michael Anthony, of course, from his band Chickenfoot and from Van Halen and, of course, The Circle. Now, he also said that Vic Johnson is confirmed for the first 4 shows. I don't know who's going to be beyond that. Jason's going to be on the first weekend for the 29th and 30th. That's interesting. And then special guests to be announced. Sammy is very excited that the first few sold out. And he says, we're going to be doing this for a while. And they mentioned some of the guests that have been sort of trickled out as being Toby Keith, Rick Springfield, Kenny Chesney, Vince Neil from Motley Crue, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. Sammy said, we'll start with 6 or 7 Van Halen songs, a couple of Montrose tracks, a Led Zeppelin song, and then 6 Circle songs. We'll mix it up pretty good. Like I said, Sammy and friends. It's not billed as Sammy and the Circle. And he's definitely going heavy on the Van Halen songs these days, which is really good. He's getting deeper into that catalog, and I can see Sammy doing this for a while. This fits his brand. There's so many bands that are doing this now. They are gravitating toward Vegas. It's quickly becoming like a rock mecca over there. What do you think of this, Dave?
Well, never mind his brand. I think he's just getting at the age where he doesn't want to tour anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And this is an easy way to play shows night after night.
Oh, yeah.
And not have to tour.
Sure.
So it's really good for him at this point in his life.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also a good way to open up a cantina and, market his products. I mean, I agree with you 100% about the touring, and that seems to be everybody these days. Everybody's getting a little too old in the tooth to start touring. I mean, everybody's always like, oh, touring? Oh, God. Can't we do a stream? So,
wow, you sounded just like Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is going to go well. I think this is going to sell well. He is definitely heading into the whole rock and roll Jimmy Buffett thing, as if he already hasn't. He's already doing it, but he's definitely right into that vein. And speaking of Sammy, boy, he's still on a roll. And what did he do, Dave? He launched a new Instagram account, and it's called @VanHagar Other Half. And it's Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony have opened up this Instagram account where they've decided to dedicate an account to their years in Van Halen. So you figure 1986 all the way through, well, I guess 1995, but then if you want to count the 2004 tour, but something tells me they're not going to be showing any clips from that. So the proof here is, what is he calling it? Van Hagar, which is a term that us fans use all the time, which has been definitely legitimized by Sammy as defining the era as Van Hagar, and he's also using other half. Just note, it's Van Hagar Other Half, not the other half. It's Van Hagar Other Half, only probably for length purposes. But remember, the other half was the name of the band that Mike and Sam put together that the Van Halen brothers got totally upset about back in the early 2000s. So interesting to note the branding there. So that's for sure. This is kind of a fun thing to enjoy. What he did was, you go on there, he posts like a little clip of Dreams from the Shoreline Amphitheater from 1993, and then they'll each comment on it. So like Mike will say, Dreams is always one of the high points of the show, and Sammy singing that high night after night blows my mind. And Sammy would reply, every time I hear a live performance of Dream, I shake and scratch my head, wondering what I was thinking singing in that register. So that was kind of fun. And for example, it won't always be a video. It'll be a picture. They show a picture. This, I don't know if you guys know this. A lot of the, crazy fans like us will know this. This is black and white picture from the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge time. And it was backstage in Japan, Tokyo, and they had done 10 nights there during the Fuck Tour. and Eddie was wearing this jacket that Sammy just bought, and Sammy wrote, I had just bought this jacket, and it was hand-woven out of old garments, taken apart and string by string and rewoven into this jacket, and it was this crazy expensive thing. I had to have it, but Eddie wanted it so bad, and Eddie put the jacket on, and Sammy's like holding him back. So he's giving you like little glimpses about stuff. They celebrated the fuck anniversary. We just reached the 30th anniversary of the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album, and it was fun. They even had Ray Boom Boom Mancini, the boxer, go on there and talk right to the camera and to the fans about how the title For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge came about, and how he was talking with Sammy on the beach one day, and he wanted to call the album Fuck, but they couldn't get away with it, and then he gave him the acronym, and he explained the whole thing, and it was like, that was really cool. They had a thing on the Runaround video, where they, if you remember the Runaround video, the band just playing on this rotating, like, stage that keeps going around, and Sammy noted, I don't need to tell you how many times we fell down again and again during that 12-hour shoot, and Mike said he had so much fun. Now, one of the most interesting ones is, now not everything is just a video or a photo. Then they had an audio clip. This was really fucking cool. So they had an audio clip of I Want Some Action. Now everybody knows that's the leftover song from 5150 that should have been on 5150, and they get into that. This is exactly what I think is so cool about this. So Mike went on there and said Ed was always coming up with these song ideas, whether it was just a guitar riff or a whole piece of music. The three of us would jam on every idea, whether it turned into a song or turned out to be nothing more than just a jam. But if Sammy wasn't in town, Ed would always send him a copy of what we've been playing to check it out. If he was at his place in Malibu, he would join in, and the four of us would just jam and see what would happen. Mike said, we have loads of tape with ideas like this sitting in boxes at 5150 Studios. And I Want Some Action is one of those jams that never made it to an album, but has a very cool guitar riff, and listening to it now, we should have taken this one all the way. Then Sammy chimes in and says, this is the way we wrote everything. Basically a jam with me scatting lyrics made up on the fly. Then I would hone down a melody and write real lyrics to it, like Summer Nights, or Best of Both Worlds, or Top of the World, or Good Enough, and that's how we got all those songs written. This one has a badass guitar riff, and hearing this makes me want to finish my part to this song and put it into a live show. What do you think? Now, can you imagine if he finished the song and started playing it on tour? That would be pretty fucking cool. That would be awesome. But this is a really, really cool thing that they did, and this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of curating the history of the band. You have two band members that have come together to put together an Instagram account for everyone to enjoy. Just a little something like a little audio clip, a photo, a video clip, and then some commentary on it. And then he talks about like Pound Cake and how he wrote Pound Cake. Him and Ed were hanging out at the beach, and some hot girls walked by in Malibu, and they were just about to go in and work on the album, and they were flirting with these ladies, and they saw them, and he said, that's some really fine pound cake, and that became like a joke between them, and they were laughing. And then he said he brought it in, and he ended up using it for lyrics, and then Mike talked about how the drill came about on the song. He says Eddie has been working on one of his guitars, and he had this drill sitting next to the console in the control room, and he's goofing around, and he picked up the drill and started revving it over his pickups, and that's how he started the song, and it sounded fucking great. Alex put a drum beat over it, and then we all decided to leave it in as the drill noise. Boom. There goes the beginning of Pound Cake. So this kind of stuff is exactly what I'm talking about. They also talked about how every photo they took, they wanted it to be of the four of them. They called themselves the Four-Headed Monster, and then he noted that even on the cover of Rolling Stone, they insisted that the four of them be on there, and that's something that Rolling Stone typically doesn't do, that always puts the whole band on there. However, they did do that for Van Halen, and they did it in 86 when Van Halen was on the cover, and they did it in 88 when Van Halen was on the cover, but when Balance came Eddie was only on the cover. That just shows you a little sign of the times there, right? So this is interesting. I really thought this was cool. It's kind of interactive. Fans can comment on it. You know, Sammy could make comments back at the fans, or Mikey if he wanted. Just really cool stuff, Dave. What did you think of this?
I think it's awesome, and you're right. They're definitely curating their history.
Yep.
Too bad it can't be a box set, but I think those days are long gone, so this is the next best thing. I mean, better than doing nothing at all, right? I'm really